My 8-year-old daughter asked me, "Mom, am I the sequel to your bad decision?" She was holding my phone when she said it. Her uncle's Instagram post was still glowing on the screen. He had used a photograph of her laughing at a fall festival without asking me. Beneath her face, he had written, "First my sister became the family warning label. Now she brought us the sequel." My mother had commented, "At least the sequel is cuter," followed by 3 laughing emojis. 14 relatives joined in before breakfast. 2 parents from my daughter's school shared it. My brother refused to remove it because, according to him, humiliation was how our family shows love. 3 weeks later, everyone was sitting around my mother's Thanksgiving table, asking me to publicly apologize for damaging his reputation. That was when I understood they were not sorry my child had been hurt. They were sorry protecting her had become expensive. My name is Rebecca Lane, though almost everyone calls me Becca. I was 36 years old when this happened, living outside Grand Rapids, Michigan, with my husband Marcus and my daughter Sadie. I worked as director of children's education at the West Michigan Botanical Conservatory, where my days involved school tours, butterfly exhibits, messy science workshops, accessibility programs, and convincing adults that children touching things was not automatically destruction. Marcus taught music at a public high school. He played 3 instruments well, 6 badly, and had the rare ability to make a room feel quieter simply by entering it. Sadie was 8, missing 1 front tooth, fascinated by bats, and still young enough to believe family meant the people who would defend you when everyone else was mean. Until that October, I had spent most of my life helping my relatives preserve that belief. My older brother Evan was 40. He owned a home staging and renovation content business called North and Pine Living, which sounded like a candle company but mostly involved Evan standing inside other people's houses explaining why their furniture made them look poor. He had almost 20,000 local followers across Instagram and Facebook, a weekly video series about elevated family living, partnerships with real estate agents, and the confidence of a man who had never confused attention with affection because attention had always been available to him. Evan was handsome, quick, funny, and socially fearless. At family dinners, he could tell a cruel story about someone, imitate their voice, and make the entire table laugh before the person realized they were being humiliated. If they objected, he smiled and said, "Come on, you know I only roast people I love." My mother, Lorraine Lane, loved that phrase. It excused nearly everything. Lorraine was 65, recently retired from managing a private dental office and serving her 3rd year as chair of the Children First Auxiliary, a local fundraising group supporting pediatric programs at a regional hospital. She dressed carefully, wrote thank you notes on heavy paper, and cared deeply about children as a category. Individual children were more complicated, especially when protecting them threatened the family image she had spent decades arranging. My father, Dean, was 67 and worked part-time at a hardware store after retiring from the County Road Commission. He was gentle, funny, conflict avoidant, and so skilled at disappearing inside family tension that I sometimes thought he could turn transparent on command. Dad would tell me privately when Mom or Evan went too far. Publicly, he usually studied his plate. For years, I mistook private sympathy for protection. I grew up understanding that Evan was the child my parents presented to the world, and I was the child they explained. He was energetic. I was sensitive. He was ambitious. I was anxious. He was a natural leader. I was bossy. When Evan failed 3 classes his freshman year of college, Mom told everyone he had struggled because traditional education could not contain creative people. When I received a scholarship to Michigan State, she warned me not to act superior because Evan was finding his own road. He borrowed Dad's car and returned it with an empty tank. Dad laughed. I forgot to pick up milk once, and Mom gave a 10-minute lecture about reliability. Evan's mistakes proved he needed support. Mine proved something was wrong with my character. The difference became permanent when I was 21 and discovered I was pregnant during my final year of college. Sadie's biological father, Jordan, was 23 and initially promised we would figure everything out. Everything lasted until I was 4 months pregnant. Then he accepted a job in Arizona, stopped answering regularly, and eventually reduced fatherhood to birthday transfers and occasional holiday texts. I was terrified. I called my mother from the parking lot, behind a campus medical clinic. She did not ask whether I was healthy. She whispered, "How could you do this to us?" "Not yourself, us." I remember sitting in my car staring at the dashboard while she explained that Evan had just begun working with a prominent real estate firm and that people in town would talk. Apparently, my pregnancy could damage my brother's networking opportunities from 70 miles away. Mom told me to come home for a family conversation. At that conversation, Evan called me the family warning label. He said it jokingly, but the phrase stayed. Every parent needs one kid they can point to and say, "Don't do what she did." Dad told him to stop. Quietly, Mom said, "He's trying to lighten the mood." I was pregnant, scared, finishing a degree, and somehow responsible for everyone else's mood. I moved into a tiny apartment near campus with my best friend Maya. I worked at the university visitor center during the day and completed classes at night. Sadie was born 3 weeks after graduation. My parents helped sometimes, though every act arrived with a reminder. Mom bought a crib and later told relatives she had basically set Becca up as a mother. Dad watched Sadie on Saturdays and asked me not to mention it to Mom because Lorraine thought I was becoming dependent. Evan took one photograph holding newborn Sadie, posted it with the caption, "Cool Uncle Duty," collected compliments, and disappeared until her first birthday. When I struggled, my family described me as irresponsible. When I survived, they described me as inspiring. Both stories centered their judgment rather than my life. I began working at the Botanical Conservatory when Sadie was 2. My original position was part-time visitor education. I led preschool tours, designed activity sheets, carried injured butterflies to the insect care room, and learned which school districts arrived 20 minutes early versus 40 minutes late. I loved it. Children did not care that I had become a mother before marriage. They cared whether the giant leaf could really hold a frog and why carnivorous plants did not eat hot dogs. Over the next decade, I finished a graduate certificate in nonprofit education, expanded the conservatory's sensory-friendly programming, and built partnerships with schools, libraries, and pediatric therapy groups. My family liked my job when it sounded charming. "Becca teaches kids about butterflies," Mom told people. She rarely mentioned I manage staff, budgets, donor programs, safety policies, and thousands of student visits each year. Competence was useful, but not flattering enough to become part of her preferred story. I met Marcus when Sadie was 4. He brought 42 high school orchestra students to the conservatory for a cross-curricular program involving sound, nature, and environmental design. Halfway through, a student fainted in the tropical house because teenagers apparently believe breakfast is a corporate conspiracy. Marcus remained calm, helped me move students into a cooler area, called the nurse, and then stayed afterward to help collect abandoned music stands. He did not flirt. He asked whether Sadie's glitter-covered lunchbox belonged to me. I said yes. He smiled and said, "Strong branding." We had coffee the next week. Marcus knew from the beginning that Sadie was not an accessory to my life. She was the center of it. He never tried to replace Jordan or perform fatherhood for praise. He showed up. School concerts, stomach flu, parent-teacher conferences, Saturday pancakes. He married me when Sadie was 6 at a courthouse, followed by dinner in Maya's backyard. Evan did not attend because he had a client shoot. Mom came but complained that the ceremony felt temporary. Dad cried. Marcus knelt in front of Sadie after we exchanged vows and gave her a small silver music note. "I'm not here to replace anybody," he said. "I'm here to stay." Sadie called him Dad 9 months later without anyone asking. My family treated Marcus with polite distance because he did not compete for their approval. Evan especially disliked him. Marcus rarely laughed at Evan's cruel jokes. He did not argue. He simply let silence remain after the punchline, which made everyone feel the shape of what had been said. One Christmas, Evan mocked the sweater Dad wore. Everyone laughed except Marcus. Evan said, "What, Music Man? No sense of humor?" Marcus replied, "I understood it. I just didn't think it was funny." Evan avoided sitting near him for the rest of dinner. The photograph that changed everything was taken at the conservatory's annual Harvest Lantern Festival. The event filled the gardens with pumpkins, children's crafts, musicians, local vendors, and families carrying hot cider through paths lit with paper lanterns. North and Pine Living had donated decorations to the event, mostly because Evan's business received sponsor recognition. I had arranged the partnership a year earlier when his company was struggling. He never let me forget that his display had elevated our festival, though the donation cost him less than the promotional package was worth. That Saturday, I had been working since 7 in the morning. Sadie spent the afternoon with Marcus, then joined me near the children's garden wearing cardboard bat wings she had painted herself. Evan arrived around 5 to film sponsor content. He hugged Mom for the camera, filmed decorative lanterns, and asked Sadie to sit on a carved wooden fox near the entrance. "Wave at Uncle Evan," he said. She laughed because one wing had folded under her arm. He took several photographs. I saw him and said, "Don't post her without asking." He lifted his phone. "Relax, Becca. It's a family festival. Ask first." "Fine." He walked away. I forgot about it because a child spilled cider near an electrical cord, and 3 volunteers simultaneously needed instructions. 2 hours later, my phone began vibrating in my apron pocket. Maya had sent a screenshot. "Please tell me Evan's account was hacked." The photograph showed Sadie sitting on the fox, cheeks pink, bat wing bent, hand raised in a blurry wave. The caption read, "First my sister became the family warning label. Now she brought us the sequel. At least this one has better accessories." Beneath it, Mom had commented, "At least the sequel is cuter." A cousin wrote, "Savage." Evan's old high school friend commented, "Some mistakes really are hereditary." Someone from Mom's auxiliary group added, "Family humor is undefeated." My Aunt Joanne wrote, "Becca is going to kill you," followed by laughing emojis, as though my expected pain was another piece of entertainment. The post had over 200 likes when I saw it. Evan's account was public. The conservatory's location had been tagged. Our festival sponsor banner was visible behind Sadie's head. My daughter's face, my pregnancy, and my family's contempt had been packaged as local business engagement. I stood in the staff parking area with a cup of cold cider in my hand, while lantern music drifted from the garden. For several minutes, I could not move. I had imagined public humiliation would feel hot. It felt cold. Like my body had stepped away to avoid witnessing what happened next. Marcus found me because Maya had called him. He took one look at my face, then at the screen. Screenshot everything. He did not tell me Evan probably meant nothing. He did not remind me it was family humor. He did not ask whether confronting them would ruin the festival. He opened a folder on his phone and saved the post, caption, comments, shares, timestamps, and sponsor tag. "Where's Sadie?" I asked. "With Maya in the craft tent. She hasn't seen it." I nodded. "Take her home. Are you staying?" 20 minutes. I need to hand off closing." "Okay." He kissed my forehead. "You didn't cause this." That sentence mattered because I had spent my life being told my reaction caused more damage than the original behavior. I finished the event, smiled at families, thanked volunteers, locked supply rooms. Then I sat in my car and texted Evan. "Remove the photograph of Then tie Sadie immediately. You did not have permission to post her. The caption is cruel and unacceptable. Confirm when it is deleted." He responded with a gif of a toddler rolling his eyes. Then, "You knew it was a joke before you even opened it." I wrote, "Remove it." He replied, "It's performing well. I'll archive tomorrow." Now, stop weaponizing motherhood because you can't laugh at yourself. 10 minutes later, he posted a story showing part of my messages. He hid my phone number but left my name visible. His caption read, "When family gets offended by the same joke they've heard for 17 years. He added a poll. "Too far, or she's dramatic?" 68% chose dramatic within the first hour. Mom called while I drove home. I let it ring. She called again, then texted, "Do not embarrass your brother publicly over a private family joke." A public post to thousands of people was apparently private when accountability arrived. At home, Sadie was drawing at the kitchen table. Marcus had kept her away from social media, but a classmate's older sister had shown the post to her during the festival. Children travel information faster than adults understand. Sadie looked up when I entered. "Mom, what does sequel mean?" My bag slipped from my shoulder. Marcus stood at the counter, jaw tight. I sat beside her. "It means something that comes after another thing, like the second book in a series. Uncle Evan said I'm your sequel." "I know. What's the family warning label?" My chest hurt. "Something he used to call me when I was younger." "Because I was in your belly before you were married?" Children reconstruct cruelty with terrifying accuracy. "Partly. Was I the bad thing you did?" Marcus turned away because tears had filled his eyes. I took Sadie's hands. "No, you were never a bad thing. I was young and scared. But you were not a punishment, a mistake, a warning, or a joke. You were my daughter." "Then why did Grandma laugh?" That question had no soft answer. "Grandma made a cruel choice. Does she think I'm funny? She thinks Uncle Evan is funny. Sometimes she cares more about making him feel good than stopping him when he hurts people." Sadie looked down. "That's bad grandmaing." A broken laugh escaped me. "Yes." She began crying. "People at school saw." I held her. "I know. Lily said her mom liked it. I'm sorry. Can you make them stop?" There it was. The only question that mattered. "Yes," I said. I did not know exactly how yet. "I will." The next morning, the post remained online. Mom had added another comment. "People are too sensitive now. Our family has always survived humor." By then, 3 parents from Sadie's school had messaged me. One apologized because she had laughed before understanding. Another said her child had repeated family sequel at breakfast. A third asked whether the conservatory approved sponsors using event photographs of children for personal content. That question brought the situation into my workplace, but not in the way my family later claimed. I had not dragged Evan's business into anything. He had tagged his company, my employer, the festival, and a photograph of my child in the same post. I called my executive director, Angela Kim, before arriving at work. I told her everything. No performance. No strategic omission. "I want you to hear it from me before someone sends it to the board." Angela was quiet. "Is the child in the photo, Sadie?" "Yes." "Did you give permission?" "No." "Did Evan's business sponsor the event?" "Yes." "Are you asking us to terminate the sponsorship?" "I'm asking the conservatory to make its own decision. I am also telling you I cannot manage any relationship involving his company." "Understood." She asked me to send the screenshots. By noon, the conservatory suspended North and Pine's sponsor recognition pending review, not because I demanded it, because a business sponsor had used a child's festival image, tagged the venue, attached a degrading caption, and then mocked the parents' removal request. Angela also issued an internal reminder that no sponsor or volunteer could use identifiable images of children without documented permission. Evan called 30 seconds after he received the email. I answered because I wanted one direct conversation. "What did you do?" I informed my employer. "You got me removed from the sponsor page." "Your post got you removed. Don't play corporate language with me." "Remove Sadie's picture." "I archived it." "Delete it." "Same thing." "No." "Becca, I donated thousands in decor. You donated materials valued at $1,400 in exchange for a promotional package worth more." Silence. "You've always resented me. This is about Sadie. Everything is about Sadie with you. Everything has been about poor, brave Becca and her kids since you got pregnant." There it was. So the post was not a joke. It was humor based on truth. What truth? You made a reckless decision, everyone rearranged around you, and somehow you became the family hero for surviving your own mess. My entire body went still. You believe my daughter is evidence of a mistake. I believe everyone acts like we have to pretend she arrived through some inspirational fairy tale. She is 8. Exactly. She doesn't understand any of this unless you teach her to be offended. Children understand when adults laugh at them. You are destroying my business relationship over a caption. You attached your business to the caption. He swore. Mom was right. Marcus has made you impossible. Marcus did not post the photograph. He's turned you against family. No, Evan. He simply refuses to help you translate cruelty into love. I hung up. Evan deleted the original post that afternoon. He left the story mocking me until it expired. Deletion did not erase screenshots, school conversations, or the fact that hundreds of local people had seen it. It also did not erase Sadie's new habit of asking before every photograph, "Where will this go?" Over the next week, my family transformed the incident into a story where I had damaged Evan's livelihood because I could not take a joke. Aunt Joanne called. He made a mistake. Yes. Then why keep punishing him after the post is gone? What punishment? The conservatory removed his sponsorship. That was their decision. Because you told them. He tagged them. You know what I mean. No, I don't. She lowered her voice. His business has been slow. He needed that partnership. Then using the sponsor's event to humiliate a child was an unusual marketing strategy. Becca. Joanne. Family should solve things privately. The post was public. He deleted it after it reached Sadie's school. You're becoming cold. I'm becoming clear. She hung up. Mom called Marcus, apparently believing men could override wives if approached respectfully enough. He put the call on speaker after telling her I was present. Marcus, you need to help Becca calm down. No, Mom paused. Excuse me? I'm not going to help you pressure my wife into accepting what happened. You weren't part of this family when the joke started. Sadie is my family. She is our granddaughter. Then act like it. Mom's voice sharpened. You have always wanted distance between Becca and us. Marcus replied. I wanted her to stop crying after every visit. Silence. That is an outrageous thing to say. It is also true. Mom hung up. Dad texted privately. I'm sorry. Your mother should not have commented. Evan went too far. I stared at the message. Did you say that publicly? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, returned. No. Then you are sorry privately and protecting them publicly again. He did not reply. A week later, Mom announced Thanksgiving would be a family reset. She sent a group message. We will not allow one social media misunderstanding to destroy decades of love. Everyone is expected at Thanksgiving. No phones at the table, no accusations, no outsiders, and no discussing business consequences. Outsiders meant Marcus. I asked whether he was invited. Mom wrote, of course, but this needs to remain a Lane family discussion. I replied, Marcus is my family. Evan added, bring him. He can supervise your emotions. Several cousins reacted with laughing emojis before deleting them. I saved the screenshot. Mom called immediately. Why are you collecting everything like evidence? Because everyone keeps pretending the words change later. Thanksgiving is for healing. What does healing mean? You and Evan both apologize. He apologizes for the post. You apologize for damaging his sponsor relationship and threatening Mom's charity position. That last part was new. What charity position? Mom became quiet. The Children First Auxiliary Chair had contacted her after seeing screenshots. Several committee members had children or grandchildren at the festival. They wanted an explanation before confirming Mom as chair for the next fundraising season. Mom blamed me, though I had never contacted the auxiliary. The public comment came from her verified personal account beneath a public photograph of her granddaughter. Apparently, even elegant women could not control who took screenshots. I did not contact your committee. But you refused to tell people it was a joke. It was not. Evan has apologized to us. He has not apologized to Sadie. She is a child. Exactly. Becca, do you understand what could happen? Your brother may lose real estate partnerships. I may be asked to step back from an organization I have served for 12 years. Then both of you should take responsibility. You would really watch your family lose everything over one caption? No. I am watching what happens when you refuse to admit what the caption revealed. Mom cried. You enjoy having power now. I have the power to stop volunteering my silence. That is all. I did not want to attend Thanksgiving. Marcus did not want me to go. They've already decided what the conclusion should be. I know. Then why? Because Dad asked. Your dad asks privately after failing publicly. I know, Becca. I need to say the boundary once where everyone can hear it. Marcus studied me. Then I'm coming. Sadie stayed with Maya. I would not bring her into a room full of adults debating whether her humiliation counted. Thanksgiving at my parents' house looked like every photograph Mom had ever posted. Candles, linen napkins, copper serving dishes, family portraits on the staircase. Mom had placed a framed picture from the Harvest Lantern Festival on the mantel, but not the one Evan used. A different photograph showing Mom, Evan, Dad, and several cousins beside the sponsor display. Sadie and I were not in it. Underneath was a small wooden sign that said, "Family is forever." I almost laughed. 17 people arrived. Evan came with his wife Natalie, who had stayed silent online and avoided contacting me afterward. She looked exhausted. Dad hugged me for too long. Mom kissed my cheek as though cameras were present. Evan said, "Nice evidence bag?" When he noticed the folder under my arm, Marcus answered, "Nice apology?" Evan rolled his eyes. Dinner began with forced normality. Football, weather, food. Natalie's pregnancy, which they had announced 2 weeks earlier. Mom spoke excitedly about becoming a grandmother again, as though Sadie had become a preliminary version. "This time I'll be close enough to help every day," she said. I looked at my plate. Marcus touched my knee. Dad noticed, said nothing. Halfway through dinner, Mom tapped her glass. "Before dessert, we need to clear something." Evan leaned back like a man expecting vindication. Mom continued, "Our family has always used humor. Sometimes humor lands badly. Evan has acknowledged that the caption could have been worded better. Could have been worded better. And Becca, in her protective instinct as a mother, reacted strongly. Understandably, perhaps. But that reaction created consequences far beyond the original mistake. I looked around the table. Everyone was listening. "What consequences?" I asked. Mom's smile tightened. Evan's sponsor relationship. Questions from clients. My committee. Relatives being dragged into private conflict. Who dragged them? Screenshots circulated. Because the post was public. We are not relitigating every detail. Then what are we doing? Moving forward. She placed a typed page beside my plate. We drafted a simple statement you can post tomorrow. It says the caption was an old family joke, that Evan never intended to insult Sadie, and that you regret how quickly the issue affected professional and community relationships. I read the first line, then looked at Evan. "You want me to lie publicly so your business looks safer. I want you to tell the truth," he said. "It was a joke." "Explain it," he frowned. "What?" "Explain why it was funny." "Becca, there are 17 people here. Explain the joke." Silence. "Was the funny part that I became pregnant before marriage?" He shifted. "That was the context." "Was the funny part that Sadie exists because of that pregnancy?" "Nobody said her existence was funny. You called her the sequel to the family warning label." "It's wordplay." "What warning?" He looked toward Mom. "You know." "Say it." His face reddened. "Your choices." "Which choice?" "Getting pregnant at 21. "And the sequel?" Silence. "Sadie." Natalie looked at him. "Evan," he snapped. "What?" "That's what you meant?" He stared. "You saw the post. I thought you meant Becca was strict and Sadie was becoming like her." "That makes no sense," Marcus said. Evan turned on him. "Nobody asked you." "You posted about my daughter." "She is not your daughter." The room went dead silent. Marcus's face became still in the way that always meant anger had become controlled. I placed my hand on his arm before he spoke. "He has raised her since she was 4. Evan laughed bitterly. "Exactly." Every guy who shows up becomes a hero in Becca's story, Natalie whispered. Stop. He ignored her. Jordan leaves. Becca becomes brave, single mom. Marcus marries her. He becomes perfect dad. She gets a museum job and suddenly she's saving children. Everything she does gets turned into resilience. I spend my whole life trying to build something and mom treats me like I'm one bad quarter from humiliation. Mom stared at him. Evan. No. I'm tired. He pointed at me. You got pregnant? Derailed everything, and somehow the family had to be gentle with you forever. I almost laughed because gentleness was not the childhood or adulthood I remembered. When were you gentle? Everyone helped you. Dad watched Sadie 6 Saturdays. Mom bought the crib. And mentioned it for 14 years. You always do this. You turn every favor into evidence that you were mistreated. You turned my child into content because you resent the attention you imagine I received. I resent that failure made you special. There it was, clear enough for everyone. Natalie covered her mouth. Dad whispered, Son. Evan looked around, realizing he had finally said the private thing too plainly. I did not mean Sadie personally. I opened my folder and removed a printed copy of the post. Her face was the photograph. Then, copies of comments. I handed one to Aunt Joanne. You wrote that I would kill him and added laughing emojis. Explain what you thought was funny. She looked down. I didn't think. Correct. I handed another page to Cousin Mark. You wrote family humor is undefeated. What was the joke? I was just reacting. Correct. I looked at Mom. You wrote, at least the sequel is cuter. Explain. Her face became pale. I was trying to soften Evan's caption. By agreeing that I was a mistake and Sadie was another one? No. Then what did sequel mean to you? She had no answer. I took out one final page. A screenshot of Mom's later comment. People are too sensitive now. Our family has always survived humor. Who was supposed to survive it? I asked. The people laughing or the 8-year-old being laughed at? Mom's eyes filled. I love Sadie. I believe you. She looked surprised. Then why are you doing this? Because love does not make your behavior safe. I made a mistake. What mistake? I commented without thinking. No. You chose Evan's comfort over Sadie's dignity. Her tears became anger. You always make everything sound so cruel. You make cruel things sound accidental. Dad whispered my name. I turned to him. Did you think the post was wrong? Yes. When? Immediately. What did you do? I told your mother privately. Did you ask Evan to remove it? No. Did you defend Sadie publicly? He looked down. No. Why? I didn't want to make it bigger. It had been shared hundreds of times. I know. You did what you have always done. You loved me privately and left me alone publicly. He began crying. I'm sorry. I believe you are sorry. I do not trust sorry that keeps choosing the same behavior. Mom pushed the typed statement toward me. What do you want? A public humiliation? Do you want Evan to lose his company? Do you want me removed from the auxiliary? Do you want your father to hate himself? No. Then fix this. By lying? By acknowledging intent. Intent does not remove the post from Sadie's classmates' phones. Children forget. Sadie asked whether she was my second mistake. The entire room became still. Mom covered her mouth. Evan looked down. Natalie began crying. She asked why her grandmother laughed. I continued. She stopped wanting her picture taken. She asks where every photo will be posted. That is the consequence I care about. Evan whispered. I didn't know. You didn't ask. I would never hurt her on purpose. You chose her because she could not answer you. His head lifted. That is not true. Would you have posted Marcus with that caption? Silence. Would you have posted Dad? Silence. Would you have posted one of your clients? Obviously not. Because they could damage you. Sadie was safe to use. Natalie stood abruptly. Her chair scraped the floor. I need air. Evan reached for her. She pulled away. Don't, Mom said. Natalie, this stress isn't good for the baby. Natalie turned toward her. Please do not use my baby to end a conversation about what he did to another child. Mom went silent. Natalie walked onto the back porch. Evan stared after her. For one brief second, I saw fear underneath his arrogance. Not fear of losing followers. Fear that the person closest to him was finally seeing the full pattern. Mom said, "This family is falling apart," Marcus replied. "It was already hurting people. Becca just stopped calling that together." I reached for the statement, tore it once, placed the pieces beside my plate, and stood. Here is what happens next. Evan has no contact with Sadie. No calls, gifts, photographs, school events, holidays, or messages through other relatives. He never posts or references her again. Mom, you do not see Sadie without Marcus or me present. Dad, the same applies until your public behavior matches your private apologies. Anyone who sends us guilt messages, carries information, or posts about this loses contact for 6 months. We are not attending Christmas. I will not design the children's activity for the auxiliary fundraiser. I will not use my staff, employer, or community contacts to protect anybody's reputation. I will not post the statement. Mom stared. You're cutting us off. I'm removing my child from people who believe her dignity is negotiable. She needs grandparents. She needs safe adults. Evan stood. So you get to destroy the family and call it parenting? No. You posted the photograph, Mom laughed. Everyone joined. I am responding. You are enjoying this, I looked at him. I wish I could make you understand how much I am not. That was the truth. I did not feel victorious. I felt tired enough to lie down beneath the dining table. Mom whispered, "What about Thanksgiving?" I looked around at the half-eaten food, the candles, the family portrait, the wooden sign declaring family forever. Thanksgiving happened. Marcus and I left. Dad followed us to the driveway. Becca. I stopped. He stood under the porch light without a coat. I should have defended her. Yes, I should have defended you years ago. Yes. I thought staying quiet kept the family together. It kept you comfortable, he cried. I know. Do not call me tomorrow asking how to fix this. Okay. Do not ask Mom to apologize so you can have holidays again. Okay. Change because you understand, not because you want access. He nodded. I love you. I love you too. I left anyway. Loving someone and leaving their driveway are not contradictions. The fallout arrived quickly. The conservatory permanently ended North and Pine's sponsorship after Evan refused to provide a direct apology or acknowledge misuse of the festival image. Angela did not announce details publicly. She simply said the organization had concluded the partnership no longer aligned with its child safety and consent standards. Evan posted a vague story about cancel culture entering community nonprofits. That prompted followers to ask what had happened. Someone reposted the original screenshot. Then former clients began sharing their own experiences. A homeowner said Evan had mocked her outdated kitchen in a private group after staging it. Another said he had posted a blurred image of her cluttered bedroom with a joke about divorce listings. An assistant claimed he routinely filmed inside houses before receiving permission. I did not contact any of them. I did not need to. Patterns survive because each injured person believes she is the only one. Once one screenshot becomes visible, the others recognize it. 2 real estate teams paused their referral agreements. Evan blamed me. Natalie moved temporarily to her sister's house after learning he had posted private details from their fertility appointments years earlier as vague content about masculine patients. That had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the same belief that other people's vulnerability became his material once it entered his life. Mom's auxiliary board asked her to step back for the season. She told relatives I had engineered it. The actual committee chair called me once, not for gossip, but to ask whether the screenshot was authentic. Yes. Did Lorraine ever apologize publicly? No. Thank you. That was the entire conversation. Mom later left a voicemail sobbing that Children First was the only thing that was mine. I almost called back. Then I remembered Sadie asking why Grandma laughed. My mother had treated my child's dignity as something Evan could spend for engagement. Her volunteer title was not more sacred than an 8-year-old. I did not call. The first months of no contact were harder than the dramatic dinner. Toxic closeness is still closeness. My phone became quiet. No Sunday group messages, no Christmas planning. No mother calling to ask whether I could, quickly, design a craft station. No dad sending weather updates because he did not know how to discuss feelings. Sadie missed Grandma. "Can I still love her?" she asked. "Yes." "Can I see her?" "Not right now." "Why?" "Because loving somebody does not automatically make them safe with your feelings." "Did Grandma say sorry?" "Not yet in the way she needs to." "She said sorry on voicemail. She said she was sorry everyone was upset." "That's not the same?" "No." Sadie thought for a while. "Sorry means you say what you did." "Yes. And change." "Yes." Marcus and I found a child therapist after Sadie began crying during school picture day. I hated that my brother had changed the meaning of cameras for her. The therapist helped her separate the photograph from herself. "A picture can be used badly," she explained, "but that does not make the person in it bad." At home, we created a rule. Nobody posted Sadie without asking her as well as us. Even family photos. Even school achievements. We showed her captions before sharing. She often said no. We accepted it. Choice returned slowly. At the conservatory, the incident led Angela to review our image policies. We created a child consent system for public events. Parents still gave formal permission where required, but children old enough to understand were also asked before close-up photographs. Staff wore badges saying, "Ask before you snap" during major festivals. It was not presented as my family's lesson. It became a better institutional habit. Sadie helped design the badge. She drew a small bat holding a camera and wrote, "My face, my choice." The phrase was not legally perfect. It was emotionally exact. Dad respected the boundary better than I expected. He did not call for 3 months. On my birthday, he mailed a card that said, "I am sorry I taught you that private love should be enough when public protection was needed." No response required. He included no gift, no family photograph, no request. 2 months later, he sent another note. "I started therapy. I will not report progress like homework. I wanted you to know." I did not respond. At 6 months, I invited him to coffee. Public place. 1 hour. He arrived early. "Thank you." "Why did you stay silent?" I asked. He cried before answering. "Because Evan and your mother made noise, and you made sense. I kept choosing the people who made consequences immediate." "Meaning?" "If I challenged Evan," he exploded. "If I challenged Lorraine, the house became miserable. If I disappointed you, you went quiet and handled it. There it was. You sacrificed the safest person." "Yes. For years." "Yes." "Did you know the post was about my pregnancy?" "Yes." "Did you think Sadie was being called a mistake?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you comment?" "Cowardice. No weather. No excuses." "Thank you for answering." We met again 3 months later. Then again. Dad did not regain access to Sadie immediately. He accepted that. After nearly a year, Sadie asked whether Grandpa could attend her science fair. "Do you want him there?" "Yes." But no pictures. Dad came. Left his phone in the car. Spent 40 minutes listening to her explain Bat echolocation. When she finished, he said, "I'm proud of you." No secret photograph. No request to hug. Sadie hugged him anyway. That was how their relationship reopened, because he respected the door while it was still closed. Mom did the opposite at first. Gifts appeared on our porch, cards addressed directly to Sadie, messages through relatives. "Grandma misses you. Grandma's heart is broken. Family should forgive." We returned the gifts and asked relatives to stop carrying messages. Mom posted vague quotes about adult children weaponizing grandchildren. She attended a different charity luncheon and told people she had been canceled by her own daughter over emojis. Every public minimization made the boundary easier to maintain. Evan's business shrank. It did not collapse, and I did not want it to. He still had clients who cared more about aesthetics than character, but the partnerships disappeared. Natalie stayed separated through the birth of their son. She allowed Evan supervised time while deciding whether their marriage could continue. He blamed me in messages I never answered. You started a chain reaction. You ruined my family. You turned Natalie against me. The truth was simpler. I stopped covering one example of behavior he had repeated in multiple relationships. Consequences traveled through doors he had opened himself. Nearly 18 months after Thanksgiving, Evan sent an email unlike anything before it. No insults, no demand. I used Sadie because I believed you were safe to hurt. Mom taught me you would absorb things. Dad taught me nobody would publicly stop me. And you taught me you would eventually return. None of that made me post the photograph. I did that. I wanted engagement. But I also wanted to remind you of the role I thought you should occupy. I was angry that you had built a stable life out of something I had used to feel superior. I am sorry. I understand I may never see Sadie again. I will not contact her. I read it twice. Marcus asked. Do you believe him? I believe he understands more. Does that change contact? No. Okay. No pressure. I replied one sentence. Thank you for taking responsibility. Do not contact Sadie. He answered. Understood. He respected it. That mattered, but it did not erase the post. Natalie eventually divorced him. She later told me they had entered counseling, but Evan kept treating insight as a strategy for getting the old life back rather than a reason to become different. After she ended the marriage, something shifted. He stopped posting motivational content. Sold part of North and Pine. Took a quieter project management role with a remodeling company. I heard through Dad that Evan was genuinely good at the work when he was not performing himself. We remained no contact. Growth does not obligate the injured person to become the audience for it. Mom's honest apology arrived much later. Almost 3 years after the post, after Dad had moved into a small apartment and their marriage had become a separation neither publicly announced. She mailed a handwritten letter. I laughed because Evan's approval was more important to me than your pain. When you became pregnant, I believed your life reflected badly on me. Instead of confronting my shame, I turned you into the family example and allowed Evan to repeat that story. When he used Sadie's photograph, I knew exactly what the joke meant. I commented, because correcting him would have required admitting we had been cruel to you for years. I protected the son who embarrassed people and punished the daughter who noticed. I am sorry. I understand that being Sadie's grandmother does not entitle me to access. I will stop sending gifts and messages. I hope one day she knows the truth. She was never a mistake. Neither were you. I cried before finishing. Not because I was ready to forgive everything, because the letter finally described what happened without asking me to rewrite it. I waited 6 months before responding. I received your letter. Thank you for naming the truth. Sadie is not ready for contact. Neither am I. Please continue respecting that, Mom replied. I will. She did. No birthday gift, no Christmas card directly to Sadie, no vague social media posts. Another year passed. Sadie was 12 by then. She had grown taller, developed braces, and become obsessed with wildlife rehabilitation. She remembered the post but no longer flinched at every camera. At a school nature fair, she won an award for a presentation about urban bat habitats. A teacher asked to photograph her for the school newsletter. Sadie asked where the image would appear, read the caption, and said, yes. I went into the restroom afterward and cried, because healing sometimes looks like a child asking 2 calm questions before choosing a photograph. That spring, she asked about Grandma. Is she still sorry? I think so. Did she change? She has respected the boundary for almost 2 years. Can I meet her once? Every protective instinct in me said no. Then I remembered the purpose of the boundary was Sadie's safety, not my permanent control over her relationships. We can arrange it carefully. The meeting happened at a family therapist's office. Mom arrived without a gift. She looked smaller and older. Sadie sat beside me. Marcus waited outside because Sadie asked for fewer adults. Mom began. I'm sorry. Sadie said, For what? Specific. My daughter had learned. Mom swallowed. I laughed when your uncle posted something cruel about you and your mother. I knew the joke meant I had treated your mother's pregnancy like a family shame. I cared more about protecting Evan than protecting you. You did nothing wrong. Sadie asked, "Did you think I was a mistake?" Mom cried. No, but I acted like agreeing with that idea was acceptable, which means my private feelings did not protect you. Sadie looked at me, then back at Mom. Why did you keep saying Mom was dramatic? Because if she was dramatic, I didn't have to admit I was wrong. Silence. Are you going to post me again? Never without asking. Are you going to make jokes about Mom? No. What if Uncle Evan does? I will stop him publicly. Sadie nodded. Okay. Mom seemed to expect more. A hug, perhaps. Sadie said, "I'm done for today." Mom answered, "Thank you for seeing me. No guilt." That response allowed a second meeting months later, then an occasional supervised lunch. Mom never regained the old grandmother role because the old role had included entitlement. She built a smaller one. She asked before touching Sadie's hair, asked before taking photographs, asked whether she wanted a birthday card, accepted no. At one lunch, another relative made a joke about me being the wild child who settled down. Mom said, "Becca was never the family joke. We treated her that way because it made our choices easier." The table went quiet. She did not look at me for praise. That was when I believed change had moved beyond apology. Dad and Mom never fully reunited. They became friendly, attended some events together, and stopped using marriage as proof that nothing had been wrong. Dad told me he could care about her without returning to a home where silence was expected from him. Mom said she understood. Evan remained outside our lives. He sent no gifts, no surprise messages. Once, when Sadie was 14, she asked whether she could read his apology email. I let her. "Do you forgive him?" she asked. "Some parts of me do." "Do you want to see him?" "No." "Can both be true?" "Yes." She nodded. "Good." She never asked to meet him. I did not encourage or prevent it. Her choice. My relationship with the conservatory deepened after the incident. The ASK before you snap policy spread to several partner organizations. We created workshops for parents and children about digital consent, online embarrassment, and the difference between sharing a memory and using someone as content. I never told Sadie the program existed because of her unless she asked. When she was 13, she volunteered at one. A parent jokingly said, "My kids don't get privacy. I made them." Sadie replied, "You made their bodies. You didn't make their dignity." The room went silent. I nearly fell off my chair. Later I said, "That was intense." She shrugged. "It was true," Marcus said. "She gets that from you." I said, "She gets the dramatic delivery from Evan." We froze, then laughed. That mattered too. Healing eventually made some memories ordinary enough to joke about without repeating the harm. Marcus remained the person who showed me what family looked like without performance. He never asked for credit for helping through the crisis. When people praised him for protecting Sadie, he said, "Becca protected her. I stood beside them." At home, he taught Sadie drums, which I considered an attack on the neighborhood. He attended every BAT presentation. He took terrible family photographs because his thumb covered the camera. When Sadie turned 15, she asked him to legally become her father. That part involved paperwork, but emotionally, the decision had been made years earlier in a kitchen when he told my mother. "So is Harper." "No, Sadie. In our real new life. Names matter," when he said, "Sadie is my family." Jordan agreed, after admitting he had never been the father she deserved. Marcus cried for 2 days and blamed allergies despite it being February in Michigan. Our family became smaller than the one in Mom's holiday photographs, and stronger than the one those photographs had hidden. Maya remained Aunt Maya. Dad attended some Sunday dinners. Mom joined occasionally after years of rebuilding. No Evan. No relatives who believed my boundaries were gossip. We hosted Thanksgiving ourselves for the first time 5 years after the original dinner. 12 people. Marcus's parents, Maya, Dad, Mom, 2 friends, Sadie and a classmate whose family was traveling. Before eating, Mom asked, "Would anyone like a group picture?" Sadie said, "Only if nobody posts it." Everyone agreed. Mom placed her phone on a shelf, set the timer, and ran into the frame. The first picture caught Marcus sneezing. The second had Dad's eyes closed. In the third, Sadie was laughing with her head tilted back. Mom showed it to her. "Keep or delete?" Sadie studied the image. "Keep, family group only." "Okay." That one word represented years. Later, Mom sent it in a private message with no caption. Nobody called it content. Nobody used it to prove healing. It was simply ours. People still ask whether I regret how publicly the consequences spread. I did not sue my brother. I did not contact his clients. I did not expose private records. I preserved a public post, told my employer the truth, refused to publish a lie, and stopped supplying silence. Other people made their own decisions after seeing his behavior. For years, my family had benefited from a strange rule. Their cruelty counted as private, even when performed publicly, while my objection counted as public betrayal, even when spoken quietly. I broke that rule. That was not revenge. Revenge would have required me to enjoy the damage. I did not. I grieved Evan's marriage, Mom's reputation, Dad's shame, and the years Sadie lost trusting them. But grief did not require me to prevent consequences. That distinction saved me. I also learned that being the family scapegoat can become an identity you carry after leaving the room. For months, I interpreted every success as proof Evan was wrong, and every peaceful day as proof Mom had failed. Marcus eventually asked, "Do you want your life to remain an argument with them?" I became angry, then honest. No. I wanted the conservatory because I loved children's curiosity. I wanted Marcus because he was Marcus, not because he was safer than my relatives. I wanted Sadie to grow into herself, not become the symbol of how well I overcame shame. Even defending a child can turn her into a story about adults if you are not careful. I stopped telling people what happened unless it served a purpose. I did not make Sadie repeat her hurt to justify boundaries. I let her become more than the girl in the Fox photograph. She became a swimmer, a terrible baker, a skilled drummer, a volunteer at a wildlife clinic, and a teenager who sometimes forgot to text where she was. Normal. Normal became the victory. My mother once said, during one of our careful lunches, "I wish I could undo the comment." I answered, "I don't." She stared. "Why?" "I wish you had never written it. That's different. Undoing it would let everyone keep pretending the belief wasn't there." She cried. "You think I believed Sadie was a mistake? I think you believed my pregnancy reduced my value." Evan turned Sadie into evidence of that belief, and you laughed. Mom nodded. Yes, truth without defense. The comment exposed the family role we were still living. Did it have to hurt her? No, that part will never become useful enough to justify it. She nodded again. We sat quietly. Healing did not require converting harm into destiny. Some pain remains simply unnecessary. What we can choose is what stops afterward. The pattern stopped with Sadie. She will never be asked to laugh while someone humiliates her mother. She will never be told family loyalty means surrendering her image. She will never hear me call her dramatic because another adult dislikes her boundary. If I fail her, and I will in ordinary human ways, she knows she can tell me. She has. At 16, she said, "Mom, you tell my story too much when people ask about online safety." I was horrified. "I don't use your name. They know I'm your daughter." She was right. "I'm sorry. Are you going to stop?" "Yes." I removed personal details from future presentations. Sorry means you change. The rule applied to me too. That may be the deepest lesson my family gave me accidentally. Accountability is not something good people demand from bad people. It is a practice safe people accept for themselves. Evan believed being funny excused him. Mom believed loving Sadie privately excused her. Dad believed disagreeing privately excused silence. I could easily have believed protecting Sadie once made every later choice correct. It did not. Safety requires listening after you become the authority too. I am 44 now. Sadie is 16. Marcus still teaches music and now runs a district arts program. I became the conservatory's chief learning officer, a title my mother finally learned to say correctly, instead of telling people I do butterfly crafts. Dad lives 10 minutes away and volunteers in the greenhouse twice a month. Mom lives in a smaller condo and attends therapy consistently. She is no longer on the Children First Auxiliary Board, but she volunteers quietly at a food pantry where no one photographs her holding donations. Evan works for a regional renovation company. His social accounts are private and mostly inactive. Dad says he is less charming and more honest. I hope that is true. I do not need to verify it. Sadie asked me recently what I would do if Evan came to the door. I don't know. Would you let him in? Probably not. Even if he changed? Change does not create automatic access. Could I let him into my life someday? Yes. Would that hurt you? Honest question. Maybe. Would you be mad? No. How? Because protecting you includes accepting that eventually you decide which risks belong to you, she thought. I don't want to see him. Okay, I just wanted to know. Good question. She returned to homework. No dramatic music. No final reunion. Choice. That is what our family had denied people for years. Evan decided what counted as humor. Mom decided who should absorb it. Dad decided silence was peace. Relatives decided forgiveness should arrive before accountability. Now the doors in my life belong to the people standing inside them. We decide who enters. We decide what gets photographed. We decide what gets shared. We decide whether sorry has been followed by change. And sometimes we decide no forever, not because hatred is stronger than love, but because self-respect no longer requires another trial. I still have the original screenshots. They are stored in an encrypted folder I rarely open. For a long time, I thought keeping them meant I was holding on to anger. Now I understand they served a temporary purpose. Evidence helped me stop doubting myself while everyone insisted the joke had been harmless. Eventually, I no longer needed to look. I believe my own memory. I believe Sadie's question. I believe the silence at Thanksgiving when I asked everyone to explain what was funny. That silence told the truth more clearly than any apology. Cruel humor survives through speed. Someone says something. Everyone laughs before thinking. The injured person is pressured to smile before discomfort settles. Slow it down, and the structure becomes visible. Explain the joke. Name who carries the shame. Ask why the powerful person needed the powerless person's face. Ask why protecting the child is called destruction, while humiliating her is called family. Most people cannot answer because the joke was never built to survive examination. It was built to enforce a role. Evan's caption said I remained the family mistake, and Sadie inherited the title. Mom's laughter said he was still allowed to tell that story. My refusal said no, not anymore. That was the moment the pattern broke, not when the sponsor disappeared, not when the committee asked Mom to step aside, not when Natalie left, and not when apologies arrived. The pattern broke when my daughter asked whether she was my bad decision, and I refused to protect the adults who had taught her to ask. So here's the question I would ask anyone listening, because families split hard on this one. If your favored sibling publicly used your child's face to call her the continuation of your worst mistake, and your own mother laughed along until the post reached your child's school, would years of therapy, genuine accountability, and changed behavior ever earn them a limited place in your child's life again, or would using a child to keep an old family scapegoat in her place be the betrayal that closes the door permanently?